real success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder, and in the Hit Lab with me today, I've got an extra special treat for you, folks. Today, we are blowing the lid off of the pool industry. You'll know what I mean in just a minute, but check it out. This is the guy that has been heading up the process. He literally saved our lives when we met him last fall, and he's been doing the amazing pool edition, and everything else that's going on at our house literally right now. I have the owner of Harpeth Valley Hardscapes, the best of truly custom builds. I've got Dan Buckley in the Hit Lab. How we doing, Dan?
Well, I'm great, Nick. How are you today? I appreciate you having us on. This is a great opportunity to kind of help educate, not only, our listeners, but, maybe potential customers and friends down the road.
Well, I can promise you that we were 100% lost when we wanted to do this, had no idea where to start. And I could say that's probably the truth for most people, especially if it's their first time doing it. There's really no great resources on like how to build a pool, how to choose the right companies, the vendors, all the moving parts that are involved in that. And the reason that I wanted to have you here today is just because, you literally saved our life. We were about to scrap the whole project. It was that bad of an experience with anybody else that we talked to. Not to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm just being honest here, right?
Yeah.
So we're so grateful to know you, for the relationship, and for even coming on and hanging out with me here today. Thank you very much, man.
Well, thanks for having me. It's like I said, it's been great working with you guys, and I think that's indicative of how we try to build each relationship with every pool. And it's, two at a time. So, it's that gives us the ability to stay engaged and in contact on a daily basis and ultimately reach, your goal, not only in timing, but expectations.
Well, man, let me just I'm just going to kind of tell the story a little bit about what we went through. Rhiannon and I bought our home in 2020. It was new construction, and we always had the intentions of putting in a pool. So we lived there a little bit, wanted to figure some things out. And when we got to the place where it's like, all right, we're ready to pull the trigger, we started asking around. The first places we went to were the companies that had built some other pools in the neighborhood. Dan, we couldn't even get a call back, a return phone call when this is hundreds of thousands of dollars that's being spent, and we can't even get a call back. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
What would cause that?
Well, I think, COVID in a way, because there was all of a sudden this big push when everyone was forced to stay at home. And then the industry was caught up on the backside of that because manufacturing was shut down. So it was a perfect storm scenario where the demand was high, supplies were at a low, and then the prices. That was the result of that, right? After we got everything back online. And now, here we are where it's kind of hit a kind of a peak on pricing. Hopefully we can get that stabilized. But I think that, ultimately was the biggest challenge for everybody was they couldn't keep up with the demand. And then maybe saying yes too many times.
Right.
And then they've got themselves backlogged. And, that's the one thing we've tried to avoid. We try to not only find the right projects for our team, but also the right client as well. Because again, it's a relationship for 3 or 4 months, as you know.
That's right.
So we want to see each other every day. Want to make sure that, we're able to communicate our needs and your expectations. And you have to be there for that. Somebody, I like to start my day every day on the job site. Try to do my sales 10 to 2.
Yeah.
Get the job flowing and then wrap it up. It keeps continuity. Surprises at a minimum.
That's right.
Well,
it was really cool because literally where we're at in the process now is we're finally filling that sucker up, right?
Yeah.
So liner went in literally yesterday, And by the time this show comes out, we'll have been swimming for a while. It will all be done. But literally, like, the liner went in yesterday. That was cool. Yeah. That was really cool. And then we started putting some water in the hose in. And then, of course, like just like everything else, that we thought we were just going to be running the hose for a week or whatever to fill it up. Turns out it was actually better financially to just have it all dropped in one day. So that's happening today. And you were there literally at my home this morning before our children had even gotten out of bed. Like, you were there doing it, and then here we are today. It's been such a cool process, man.
Well, I agree. And I think it's, a lot of our clients get to see that, but not on this level of communication where we can kind of let people know what the difference is in selecting the right pool builder for you. These are some of the considerations. Am I going to see this guy? Yeah. Is it only going to be on payday? Yeah. Is he involved in the build like he was in the sale? All these things matter, I think that's where, we kind of separate ourselves a little bit by being that small company that's, kind of a team of experts, really. I have
it's like an all-star team.
Really is. I have, great craftsmen, masons, David, the team.
Oh, yeah.
And when it's time to execute, I mean, it's regardless of what it is, they hit it out of the park every time.
You have a true knack. One of the hardest things, it's kind of like a mechanic or a barber. Like, I think those are two of the hardest things to give a good customer experience on, because I know I had some really bad haircuts back in the day where I told them what I wanted, but I didn't have a photo. But what I told them and what they heard and, their translation of it was totally different. It's a lot with the same thing with mechanics. Everything that we've kind of talked to you about that we said we wanted, we didn't really have like a rendering of it, or like a truly a way to say this is what we envision. And then, like, it was really cool because what has kind of like happened with like the rock wall with the waterfall and all those things, it turned out even better than we wanted. Like the stairs and the rock wall around the hot tub and all that stuff is like immaculate. It's so cool how the stairs walk up and you get out, and like it just made everything just so neat. And then the kids get to jump off of it, right? Down the road, right? So it's like a double feature. The customer experience is just, that's why I had to have you on, just because I don't think there's going to be anybody better, man. You said something really important that we believe in. It's we say it when we're picking kids for the baseball team. We'll have hundreds of kids come try out for 13 spots, and we have to cut some kids that might have been better players than others, but we weren't a good fit for them. It wasn't, are they a good fit for us? It's got to go both ways.
Right. Exactly. And it's usually an energy we feel, and it's usually in that first sales call, and then of course budget matters, right? Sure. I mean, but a lot of times it is just that, is this a good fit for my team as well? And those are where we're always going to be most successful.
That's right.
And if we can't help someone, we usually try to find someone either in that particular market or maybe a better fit for their particular need.
Yeah.
So we do try to find an answer for them, not to, kind of like you were getting no follow-ups or whatever. That's tough because you don't know what your next step is.
And the people that would call us back, it was the worst, because they'd be like, we'll be there on Thursday at 3. And so like, we're taking off, we're making arrangements to be there, and we're just sitting there waiting on people. And then no call, no show. Like, that drives me up the wall. Like, there was a lot of arrangements that had to be made, and people's schedules had to be adjusted to be able to be there. Yeah. And then not even the courtesy of a phone call. Like, seriously, I was really chapped over it. Like, I was like really mad, and I would tell my wife, I'm like, let's just move somewhere that already has a pool. Let's just not even do this.
Yeah.
And you guys came in and saved the day. And let me ask you this. So with all the other companies, the few companies that did call us back, I was going to have to be the main project manager with all these other vendors and everything. And that's not your model, right?
Right.
Why is that? It seems like that would be the easier way would be to just let me deal with it, but it may not be the easier way because you got to deal with the problems.
Correct. And again, their level of knowledge of what we're trying to do. Because again, an electrician that is great at wiring in your house and doing a bathroom or a remodel interior is not necessarily the right fit for us in the pool industry. We currently use Very Electric, which DJ is a master of his trade. He's great. And that's primarily what they do. So they wire for a lot of pool companies. He brings a lot of knowledge to the table. And the same with our gas guy. Keith's been doing gas for years. We he problem solves with us, like I was describing before about the outdoor kitchen. It's not, a blow and go approach that we see a lot of times where it's, by a bid price or
Right.
whatever. These guys are, bringing quality and expertise to every job, which that again makes our job easier, right?
Absolutely.
That makes a better finished product for us.
Absolutely. Well, let's take the folks back a little bit. You've been in the business for going on as a project manager and a business owner, probably longer than that, but right on 30 years, like approaching 30 years, 3 decades.
Yeah.
That's a career and a lifetime. All right. So you got into this pretty young, I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your backstory.
So, I was, doing underground utility work and was tired of traveling.
Okay.
So I was in Wilmington, North Carolina on the coast, and we had been setting vaults and things like that for utilities in, Virginia and different municipalities.
Yeah.
So we said, let's figure out how we can get into the pool industry there. So we started doing a few classes with, there's a fiberglass manufacturer in Myrtle Beach. So we went to some of their schools, and then we partnered with Shoreline Pool Builders in Wilmington to learn how to do the vinyls.
Gotcha.
So we were a subcontractor there.
Okay.
I built for 4 different companies and gained a lot of knowledge on the install process, but realized that there was a disconnect with the ownership. For them, it was an investment.
Right.
They weren't necessarily invested in the final product, but more of the profit margins.
Gotcha.
So when I moved out here, I went to work for Allison Companies and worked with Mark, and he had a different business model, and I enjoyed working with him. We had, it exposed me to a couple of the guys that are currently with me. At the time, we had 35, 40 guys. Really introduced me to the masonry aspect that we currently benefit from a lot today.
Yeah.
Because again, they are so in tune. I had the pool experience from Wilmington, but I didn't have the masonry experience. So once I got partnered with Allison, and maybe Bill, my supervisor, was probably the biggest impact. And then I was surrounded by great masons to work with me today. Everything was great, really. 2008 hit.
Yeah.
By 2011, we were limping. We came out of that with just 5 guys and myself.
Gotcha.
So it was time to do something different. Mark's still doing well, and hope that continues. And so we started, really on my way home, I'd crossed the Harpeth River 3 times and decided that was going to be the company name.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, because it was the area I wanted to work in.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, hardscapes made more sense because I didn't have the team of pool guys yet.
Gotcha. So you started out more masonry stuff before you really targeted the pools.
Right. I knew 2011 was still tough. The economy was still recovering too. So, a lot of masonry parts. And then I had friends in the pool industry. So I was doing their tile and coping and decks and things. And then once I found David, that was almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
That was where we did a couple of vinyl pools in those first years, but I couldn't really market like I wanted to until I had that lead guy.
Gotcha.
And so then, that was like the last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Where we could really launch. And he grew up working for Mr. Porter over at Westmead Pools.
Gotcha.
So he learned the old school way. They did everything in-house. So, David was a blessing to find. And then he's been a great team leader. He's great with the customers, great with everybody.
I agree.
Yeah, right. You've seen firsthand. You
I
know
agree.
what I mean? So, and then, here we are. We've continued our focus on continued education.
Sure.
We've gone ahead and made sure those guys are attending all the classes they can get at least 8 hours each year. And then a lot of the people in our industry are good about providing those, like Belgard and Teco Block. And so even Allen Block with the retaining walls, all of it's important,
Gotcha.
Keep up with the latest techniques and tools. And then, of course, the pool industry.
Right.
We have plenty of opportunities there, and went ahead and got ourselves certified there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an important thing for people to look at as they're going through navigating this process like you went through.
Right.
And there's some things that they can ask. And I think it's important to have conversations with a few of the customers, just make sure that they know firsthand, from someone that's had a pool for a year or two.
That's right.
And what was that experience like? Kind of like, after you drive a car off the lot.
Man, it's like, if it's just not, first of all, the reason I think that so many people have such a sour taste in their mouth with their experiences is because, like, nobody's perfect. Mistakes happen, but the mistakes happen over, like, when they're literally the people across the street, when their fiberglass one got dropped in, it got dropped in and we didn't see anybody there for another like 3 or 4 months. Like, it just sat there with dirt all around. It was a gigantic mess. And like, I think they sued the company.
Yeah.
Like, and that was like our friends that during COVID built pools and stuff, they were the same thing. Like, some of them are still dealing with problems from a 2020 installation, where things are still not right and they can't get people to call them back or come out there. And I mean, like, folks, these guys would even, like, they were so courteous as to even like text us the night before if they needed a car moved out of the driveway, so we didn't have to get up or walk out there in our pajamas and move cars in the freezing cold weather. Because you guys started in October, you were working through Christmas.
Yeah.
Cold weather, we hit a bunch of rock.
Yeah.
Like, but like, we knew all the way through. Like, I could ask my wife, who's been the other project manager alongside you guys, really making this happen. She's been a superstar in the process, but she's like, hey, yeah, based on the rock we hit and how many days it hit, this is what it did to our budget and all that. Like, just having that communication.
Yeah.
I have yet to find a problem in the history of mankind where they look back and they're like, they communicated too well. That caused that problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's always a break in communication.
And even in hindsight, when you look at the same situation 2 or 5 years later down the road, how could it have been handled differently? And you'll always find a different path. And it was closer than most of us thought, right? You said you're right there.
That's right.
The communication.
That's right. And just like anything else, we found you because of another happy customer.
Yeah.
They referred us.
Yeah. Donna's great. Yeah. 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 And that's, again, we're hoping to, maybe build her another pool in her new location as well, but she would be one of the rare.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, most people don't go through it twice.
That's right.
Unless you've moved properties, and it's happened a few times for us. And the greatest compliment really is when we do get a call back, even if it's to expand on something we've already built,
That's cool. That's cool. Well, you also said something to me about your team a couple weeks back. We were just talking about the experience, and you said, it's so nice, and I feel the same way about my team, that like, you feel like you're tackling things together. You can feel like you can accomplish anything because they've got your back. They're all in the same place together. And when I guess when you have a small group like that, they say love grows best in little houses. I agree with that too.
Right.
But like, when you have that group that you can depend on, it's easy to scale or replicate in others when you have to bring those other people in. It's the culture that you guys have created.
Absolutely. And I think, really Gretchen has kind of added to that, because we had all of the functioning parts in the field, but she's also added another dynamic that allows another experience for the customer as well. One more point of contact.
Absolutely.
Which we can't have enough of. Right. Make sure we don't miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, color choices, like you pointed out, that communication from the team is huge, because that's an everyday.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see and it's easier for me, like we were talking earlier, to charge into some of these projects with confidence, because I do know what's behind me. Yeah.
You do. You don't know what's underneath you, though. That's the crazy. Right. I couldn't believe that like, we got all these tools in the world and everything else, and it's like, we might hit rock, we might not. I'm like, there's no way to, like, I can't believe there's not tools out there that they can just to measure that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my goodness.
Well, and then the cost. It's kind of cost prohibitive to bring in those core drilling machines, only to let us know that we have rock here, here, and here, but maybe not in that quarter.
Right.
So it does. And, we hit, kind of like when I was in Wilmington, we'd have to de-water out there because of the ocean, with the water level table there. It's kind of like rock here. We hit it about 30-40% of the time. We did kind of know going into your property, though, with the outcropping.
Yeah.
And Nolensville.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Yeah. There was that couple of spots we never could grow grass. And that was like the iceberg that the Titanic hit is like, you could just see the top of it, but then you got underneath and that sucker was massive.
the nice thing is we don't have to worry about it going anywhere.
That's right.
And your rock was, kind of, it was challenging because it was interlocking, not solid, but nonetheless, solid footing.
Absolutely. So, well, let's educate some people, right? So, the basic process of just building a pool. Walk me through, like, step by step. The folks that are thinking about getting started, right? What's some homework they could do to make the relationship with you even better?
Great question. I think that, early on, we're seeing, especially in Brentwood, Williamson County areas, the surveys are almost imperative. So surveys, setbacks, even familiarity with HOAs.
Yeah.
So that you kind of know what hurdles you're going to be jumping through with the right builder. And I think that's the target, right? Because it's building together.
Yeah.
We were just meeting with some folks from California, and they were anxious because they're moving here, right? But not for a while. So it's a remote sell, if you will, right? And for them, a remote buy. And so just trying to get comfortable with that process, and even what challenges they might find with rock, they suspect, and things like that. But she in particular has done a lot of the legwork with the graphic design and things like that. So there are steps even to kind of, if you haven't already found the perfect builder, but maybe started working on Pinterest and images and, starting to, because a lot of times that's where it is. It's our vision, their vision, starting with the homeowners. Yeah. And then what we may inject, and then ultimately a landscape architect usually, because that's needed in a lot of these townships to get a permit.
There was so many, even just like, change orders along the way where once stuff starts happening, you can see it real time. You're like, oh, whoa, I want to change this. Like we totally changed the location from the hot tub and the slide. Like, we switched those midway through, decided to go with a concrete deck, have like midway through, like all those things. And it was just like, for us, we didn't know. And, somebody else could have made it a lot harder on us than you guys did.
Well, and I think, again, that kind of falls into that truly custom part. You know what I mean? Because it is your vision and flexibility.
Wow.
Right? It's really, our flexibility is key. And having a small team like that is all engaged. Yeah. Once you speak to one of us, it ripples through all of us within hours. Right. So everyone knows the shift and the change. Like the travertine, Gretchen starts making phone calls and emails. Can we get a return? Blah, blah, blah. We make some shifts. Boom, boom, boom. It's a team effort.
That's right.
Ultimately we get where we need to and accomplish the goal.
That's right. And it's not, this is a big hole. It's a big pool.
And it's a big project, like you guys with the deck space, you know what I mean? And I think that's where it made sense to go with concrete. Once we get beyond, 1,000 or 1,200 square feet, then it becomes kind of cost prohibitive, or we have to be really careful about our selections. Yeah. Because the deck becomes,
and we had a retaining wall because we're in a hill, it was a lot of things that had to happen.
Right. And then ultimately you look at it and it's right.
That's right.
When you walk in the back,
that's right.
It fits the yard.
It feels
fits
good.
Everything. Right. And it matches all of your expectations for entertaining.
That's right.
Spaces.
That's right.
Crucial. Right.
Absolutely. What are some popular trends you guys are seeing right now in the outdoor space?
The linear fire trays.
Okay.
We see, that being designed in on a lot of these projects. Of course, the covered structures like you guys have done. Then maybe, again, maybe the kitchen like you guys are going to, so all of those things are popular. We have probably, more of the, we had a period of time where the walls with scuppers and things coming out of them were more of a focus. Now we're seeing more pillars, and kind of Roman, Greek designs, coming into design now. Turf has worked its way in to be a nice accent.
We would have did that had we not had the Yorkie that needs a spot. Yeah, we couldn't destroy his restroom. We needed something, but we thought about turf for real.
And we like them also for a drainage option where you don't want to maybe a track drain or something like that. So you can serve aesthetically and functionally.
That's so.
Right. But yeah, I think those are, some of the big ones,
What about as far as like we wanted kind of a desert kind of feel? I love the bright colors of out west and of the desert and everything. So a lot of the stone work we were picking was to try to make that. Even like picking, the colors of the inside of the pool. Ours is a concrete with the liner.
Yeah.
And so obviously we said this is what we want, but we went and found pictures, and you guys sent pictures, and we were able to really like. That was the first time I had my first favorite haircut, is when I actually showed her a picture of right? And she was like, "Oh, that's what you mean."
Yeah.
And I was like, so I wasn't saying it right the whole time. She was like,
Right.
"No."
Right.
Or
her interpretation.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, what are some other, especially here in Tennessee, that people are going for? What kind of looks are they going for?
I do think, we do have a lot of creative ideas coming from both, New England area and from the West Coast. So it's nice. We're able to maybe introduce more modern finishes than the market was willing to accept 5 years ago.
Right.
Even, Teco Block is one manufacturer that really has moved in that modern feel. Belgard's coming right along too. And, I think that, even the clean line masonry materials that we can buy, natural stone.
Absolutely.
So I do like the lighter finishes. I think, with our July and August here, they can get pretty warm.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something we encourage with all of our pool decks, is to be considerate of that. And a lot of times we'll lay products out, bring them over as samples, and encourage people to walk on them and then feel them in the heat of the sun,
Right.
Especially like at your place, a couple thousand square feet, it matters.
That's right.
So yeah, as much as we love our Tennessee blue gray,
That's right.
it's so dense and it gets hot, so it's not our favorite pool deck.
Yeah.
But we use it for our caps and stone step treads and everything.
Man, that's cool. That is cool. Obviously, we have shout out to Megan and Russ at Archidec. I'm gonna get them in here as well.
Nice.
They're great to work with. And the couple people that we've brought on, we feel like they're rock stars too. But like you guys are bringing in, like, how do you like? All these guys that you're doing that you use are really good at what they do, which means they're not available all the time. So there's a scheduling thing that has to happen to get to work with that. Like there's a lot of moving parts that you're balancing on top of weather. Mother Nature's undefeated.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So you're dealing with that. We had snow. We've had like the amount of pool or water that I woke up to in the pool today, like 2 weeks ago, it had rained that much. And there was that much, like the whole deep part and had gotten into the shallow end as well. You guys have had to drain it like 3 times before we even could fill it up.
That's right.
We've had a lot of rain. So, and you're like, you got to have probably 2 or 3 guys in the chute that you like per industry or trade that they're doing. But picking the right one, that can't be easy. That's a lot of moving parts, a lot of variables.
It is. And we spent probably the first up till about 6 years ago, it was a big challenge because there were an age gap as well. A lot of guys were in their 60s, they were retiring. Who was picking up the pieces. So it took us a little time to find the right guys. And then again, guys that communicate well.
Right.
And everyone has their own style, text, emails, whatever it is.
Sure.
But just send something that day, just so that we know, got it, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's been a blessing there because again, much like my own team, it gives me confidence when I say, yes, we can definitely get this wired up, blah, blah, blah. We know basically what it is per plug. And if there's any variables, we'll let you know. But it's also going to be done properly. And the same with the gas, because a lot of these features that we were talking about earlier that are popular in outdoor living, the fire bowls and things like that, linear trays, they all have high BTUs.
Right.
So the pipe sizing, all of this is crucial. Some areas will allow you to have a 2-pound system, some won't. So,
you have to deal with our HOA.
Right. Yeah. So all of those steps, and if it's not one point of contact, then it adds delay.
Right.
And confusion.
Right.
And that's usually where we can, again, assist with that. We've been through that before. So, yeah, the right subs, and again, the right homeowner.
Right.
And then we're almost destined for success there.
That's right. That's right. What are like, so the one thing that like all my builder buddies have been saying this forever, like, you know, if you, an idea for a business, Nick, if you ever just want the guy to do something else and want to do something else, like, man, like a lot of people are like, because not ever, you mentioned picking the right builder, right? So builders are building pools, the same people that build other things too. They don't like, it's not everybody just, it's not just like we only do pools as much. A lot of the builders are doing a lot of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We have seen that trend as well. And I think, you know, part of what led to that was, again, COVID.
Yeah.
Where they couldn't get the guys that they wanted.
Gotcha.
Or in the time frame. And then it's tempting, you know, because as a GC, you're used to managing subs.
Right. So,
you know, on paper, it actually works.
Right.
And in markets like Florida, California, and Texas, it does.
Right.
Because there's an infrastructure of subs.
Yep.
But we never had that here.
Gotcha.
It's starting to get built. But what it is
you guys are building the infrastructure though.
We are. And, you know, there's other companies that, you know, again, have built up and then guys will fragment off, you know, so then, they only tie rebar or they only do, you know, so we're starting to see, you know, the tile subs and the coping.
Yeah.
But again, then you lose continuity. If it's not your in-house team, then you're waiting on them. And is it a weekend job? Right? Is it, you know, we've all heard the stories and we wonder why jobs are sitting.
Yeah.
And it's just that because they have limited control and they're waiting on their sub.
Right.
Or their sub found something that paid $1 more a foot. Or,
that's right. That's right. It's competitive all the way through. You're competing too, right? With all those folks. Like that's crazy. The maintenance part, that's where it can get a little bit tricky, right? Yeah. So what are some of the, what would you recommend as best maintenance practices when people are wanting to get into this? From a customer standpoint, like where we sit? For sure. You know, it's a blend usually. If the folks travel, then we recommend that they hire someone that can come once a week. Okay. You know, and we have a couple of friends, you know, Sparkle Clean and Daniel Williams that we recommend. And these guys are familiar with our pool systems, our hydraulics. That's important. They are. It is. And then we do a walkthrough with them as well. Before we hand it off, just because, you know, like every car or whatever, everything has a few little tricks. That's right. And if you know early, then you can enjoy it. That's right. So yeah. And then we have a few customers that go ahead and maintain their own. Right. And that can be successful too. Right. And we guide them through that. There's a pool school, you know, at the end, which you'll go through as well, because it is nice to know. This is the one school I'm excited to go to. Right. And it's one, you know, we've been really encouraged to videotape this process. So we'll do that at yours as well, so that we'll have it up on our site. And more importantly, things we could share with you as well. Yeah. For each individual. JJ, do we know a video guy? I think it would be, you know, informative, and we can, you know, go through the process of, and what are the daily, weekly, monthly steps, and then biannually, you know, because there's things that we do spring and fall. Right. And once you understand it, you know, because I have the same system at my own house, so it's nice that I use that as a baseline. Yeah. And if someone's having a problem, then I can kind of go out and try to mimic what might be going on or understand maybe with communication. And that's usually what it is. Yeah. It's our Wi-Fi connector, right? Or, you know, different things like that. And we might have to do a hardwire versus Wi-Fi. Well, it was, you know, one of the most common questions I would ask you when we were mapping all this out was, when we were making decisions, I would just say, well, if it's your house, what are you doing? Yeah. Because that's usually going to be the best thing. So that was really nice to be able to ask those questions that way. You know, there were some things we thought we wanted until we figured out the maintenance of them can cause a lot of problems. It was like, well, we don't want that. Like, man, I just can't tell you how valuable, like there's no telling the amount of headache and heartache and probably how many marriages you've saved at this point by making those recommendations, you know? So like it's so important. Like so for us, we knew that, I always thought lagoon style was really pretty and cool, but having the young kid, it was really important. My young daughter, it was really important for my wife to be able to cover it up with the automatic cover, on and off. That also helps with the heating and the cooling portion of it when we're trying to get certain temperatures and things like that. So we knew that we wanted a big one, but it was going to be a rectangular one, so that for the cover. How does families choose the right pool, like for their families or whatever it is they're wanting to do? Like what are some I don't know, some basic core principles you might say that we'd recommend everybody answer these questions before you make your pick?
Sure. I think, again, going in much like you guys did, do I want an auto cover? And if we do, and they're a great value over time, then a rectangle is the way to go. Mm-hmm. And then, we start to think about the design of the backyard. Usually there is a shape that looks, or it kind of calls out what would really look nice there.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there's also the customer feedback of what they have for a vision. Usually it's a resort or a place that they have visited that they'd like to capture a piece of. Mm-hmm. And how can we implement that into our backyard? So that's usually where the design starts. Right. And then we started thinking about functionality. Who's going to be using the pool? Are there going to be dogs in it? Is it, do we want it as a diver? So then we start thinking about customizing. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of helps us narrow down vinyl, fiberglass, or gunite. Right.
Let's talk about the differences between those, because a lot of people have a lot of opinions.
Sure.
When it comes to those things. And it's funny, we spend a lot of time out west. Gunite's not the most expensive out there. It's cheaper than even what we're doing here would be the most expensive out there. Even though, when you take on a project like this, we're doing all the landscaping. There's all these bits and pieces that are going along. We've got an overall budget that makes sense from a real estate perspective, on the value of the home. We're not trying to lose money on the sucker. We're trying to enhance and gain equity in the process. So it's a financial move on top of being something that we're going to love and enjoy for quite some time. But let's talk about so you said fiberglass versus gunite and vinyl, right? So what's the biggest differences?
Well, I think, the ability to customize. Yep. If we're limited with access, challenged with, either road in or trees or, tight side yards.
I've seen them drop the fiberglass ones, they in the crane, it's going over the house and they're coming in that way, but you can't customize that at all.
Well, that's it. So, as long as you're fine with one of those shells or shapes and sizes, great. And that works. And sometimes works for for a automatic cover. Right. The rectangular. We have a few out there with that. But if you need to bring it in pieces, or if you do want to customize to create areas for sun ledges and even the water features and things like that, then the vinyl and gunite both come into play. I think where gunite starts to win is if we need retaining walls, right? Where we're already going to incur another 30 or 40 in walls and things. Well, then maybe if you do a nice, 12 or 10 or 12 inch common wall, you can veneer that and make it purposeful and save that wall cost. And then truly customized, it's like molding clay. Really, as long as we dig properly, get our steel tied, it also allows you the ability to add water features and things like that without fear of structural integrity.
What is gunite? I'd never even, until we started looking at pools, I didn't even know what it was. I was like, I thought it was guns. I didn't know. You know what I mean? I had no idea. And I don't think a lot of people understand what actually gunite is.
Well, and there's two processes to it, and that kind of confuses people even more. There's a dry mix and a wet mix. The dry mix is the gunite, and that'll be mixed on site. And they add water and sand and Portland and aggregate on site. That's nice because you don't have to stop. Like for the shotcrete, the wet mix, you get that from like IMI or Smyrna or one of the big batch plants. Okay. But when they decide that 80 yards is enough for you or whatever, then that's it. You're not getting any more mix. Wow. So then you run subject to, somewhat of a cold joint. So we like the dry mix and shotcrete. Both have the ability to get to 8,000 PSI. So the key to it is whether you use the wet or the dry, the key is once you get the shell shot is to water cure it for 28 days. Crucial for the first 7. That'll get you to 6,000 PSI. Gotcha. And if you can just go ahead and muster another 20 days,
Yeah.
you're right there at 2,000 more PSI. So
Wow.
that allows you to, limit your even little stress cracks, anything, or even shrinkage cracks, it eliminates all of that gives you comfort with the structural integrity.
Because the earth's going to move. It keeps moving.
It is. That's why, the 1/2-inch rebar is imperative, whether you use the dry, and sometimes 5/8, 3/4 is even needed, depending on what it's holding back, how close to the house it is, and there's mathematical theories, depending on what our depth is and how close to the adjacent structure. But both shotcrete and gunite are great products, but the gunite is the dry one.
Yep. And it's beautiful.
It is. Again, we're doing a plaster finish over it.
Yep.
So we don't actually get to see the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Again, that's another layer of questions for a lot of people. What am I going to use for a pool finish? Is it going to be pebble tack or stonescapes or
all right? So let's educate them. What does all that mean?
Yeah. So, there's all of them come with different warranties and certified installers. That's probably that's probably the key, right? So you want to make sure that whoever you're hiring for that understands the importance of shell prep. So prepping the shell before you even have those guys coming out to do their profession, because they're just there to, there to plaster.
Right.
So we've used all the products. We've had really good success with all of them, but we can encourage customers to steer away from problematic colors. Just make sure that, we're encouraging longevity, because we've seen our pools now for going on 12 years.
Right.
So we see how they weather. And that's important to us, because the products we refer,
absolutely,
from the finishes, the tile, the coping, all of those things. And, we want customer satisfaction, but the reality is also we're a small team.
Right.
So callbacks are a challenge for us. We've already got a schedule. So fortunately, our focus is to build it right the first time. And then it's usually just a little bit of tuck pointing or, a little programming, some of the things that David and I usually go and problem solve.
One of the things I'm finding out about you guys is that you're the ones that get called to clean up other people's messes. I kind of like, Dad used to always make fun of me a little bit when he was my baseball coach and I threw a lot of strikes. So I was the guy brought in with full count and the bases loaded, no pressure type thing. So you're always walking in and having to clean up other people's mistakes. Well,
it's certainly a percentage of what we run into. And it's unfortunate, it's, kind of we view it as a black eye for the industry. We wish some of these guys had thought a little differently or paused before they jumped in, or maybe even worked for someone for a few years.
Right.
Even when I moved here from Wilmington, I didn't want to jump right in because I didn't understand this market. I didn't understand soil conditions. I didn't understand my, basically the industry here. Where are my suppliers? Where are the subs? So I had to find all those guys and learn. And so it takes time. And you want to work for somebody that's a professional, so that, again, when you do go out on your own and get a license and everything, but you're hitting the ground running as an educated professional, not someone that sees it as a money grab.
Right.
And it's too many people were tempted with that,
Oh, wow. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. So what can the homeowner do to help the overall process of all this stuff?
Well, I think, again, we had mentioned some of the things, like the surveys and HOA, familiarizing there. But then, even with selecting the right builder for them, I think it works both ways, that they should feel that energy too, and make sure that they feel like this is someone that I want to have in my kitchen for 3 or 4 months. Yeah,
because you're there every day.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Yeah.
How does how do you get? For me, like, I think we had deposits with maybe 2 companies before, and had to pull them when we made changes.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of pressure, it feels like, on the homeowner, because there's not a lot of time to get to know these people.
Yes.
And with a lot of the companies, we the first person we talked to, well, the person that actually came out on site wasn't who we were dealing with.
Right.
And nothing was communicated between the two. That, we spoke to you on the phone, and then you were the person that we dreamed this up in the backyard with, and then you were the one that came out and moved the first dirt.
Yeah. No, that's a great observation, and really one of the things that we focus on, or we pride ourselves on, because it's our engagement, our level of commitment is undeniable. You see it from the very first point of contact to the very last. I'm the one who does the pool school as well, and of course, all of our team is approachable and available, but my engagement is consistent throughout, and that's important to me. It's the only way I can speak to it.
Right.
I can't really come out and even guide or problem solve or anything unless I was involved in all of it, and that's the comfort level we have with all of our builds.
Right.
And why we can walk away with confidence too.
Right. That's right. Pool school just sounds so neat. I think I'm going to be I think I'm going to have to wear a lifeguard's outfit when I attend school, I think.
Please. That would be great. And it usually takes an hour, so that's not too bad.
Well, that's all I'll be able to give you anyways, because I'm going to be having to get in right after.
Well, we'll record it so we can play it over and over later.
That's what we'll do. We'll loop it on the TV. My 13-year-old's he's going to need at least to watch it 10 times to soak it in.
And probably be a big help. Really,
absolutely.
On even the daily things, just checking the skimmers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys should have a reasonable amount of, you don't have any the cedars or the pines right there, but they shouldn't shed too bad.
Right. The biggest part would just be the lawn company blowing stuff in there, just blowing it away from the pool like they did yesterday. So yesterday there's this, I had no idea, like I've learned so much watching them do this. It looked like peanut butter that you were putting on the bottom of the, on the concrete to smooth it all out before the liner went in. And you guys were there it took a good 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
To do that. It was tedious. Guys on their hands and knees, literally just making it perfect. And then the lawn company just happened to show up, and the guy's back there blowing stuff off, and I'm watching them blow leaves and everything in there on that wet stuff. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I called you, answered the phone, ding, ding, ding. That's a big deal. But I didn't know that was a thing that had to happen. I was wondering how it was going to be so smooth and it almost feels like padded almost.
Pork,
like,
it is. Yeah. It's poolcrete, they call it, vermiculite. So yeah, you can mix it up, and it is just like peanut butter on a English muffin. You know what I mean? Just give us a little bit of buffer, fill in all those voids. Yeah. Gives us a better finish for the bottom of the liner too.
Man, it's cool. And so there's multiple types of pools. There's chlorine, there's salt. I've heard there's another one out, like UV or something like that, right? So what's the differences between those, and how do people make the right decision on which one they want?
Yeah, I think everyone has some level of exposure to the salt, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, I want a salt pool. I'm like, okay. Well, is that based on any one reason? And I think that we encourage based on the type of finish.
Gotcha.
If it's a vinyl, a fiberglass, or a gunite.
Right.
That way we can help guide to what's going to be most successful for that finish.
Right, because it's got to last a long
Yeah, well, how do we get the most longevity out of our products? So salt definitely does have a role, and it's been around for a while. And there's, especially now, everyone has started to build their equipment and pumps and heaters and everything, sacrificial anodes to work around the corrosive nature of it.
Right.
But we have seen that with our hydrazo and these darker colors, that they don't seem to pair well. So we're trying to encourage the UV and a chlorine feeder.
Mm-hmm.
And the two guys that we refer for the maintenance, we have conversations with them regularly.
Right.
So I asked them too for their feedback, because then it's just two more educated eyes out there seeing other finishes, and how do they feel about the UV and the chlorine? So everyone has opinions. I think chlorine itself is a great, that's kind of the original, and you put an inline chlorine feeder. We have strongly encouraged the UV combo.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, it just gives you a 1-2 punch. UV is going to take out, right? If we could just take out more contaminants.
Yeah.
And cleanse our water that much more.
That's right.
So that's kind of our standard package now.
Gotcha.
Unless somebody says they want salt.
Gotcha.
Or if it's vinyl and fiberglass. Because we don't have any problems with those liners or the fiberglass finish with the salt. So then we're not limited as much. Some folks have a problem with chlorine. And they feel like the salt is a softer means. They don't get the discoloration of the hair and things like that.
Right.
We are still getting the chlorine. With a salt cell, you can control your levels of chlorine a little easier.
Gotcha.
And I think it's a softer way to get there. And then, of course, like I said, the UV is a great option. Ozone's another one that's popular as well.
Didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
Ozone. Okay.
Yeah, and it's injecting oxygen in.
That's cool.
Yeah. It tends to, in the early days when it was introduced, people were worried they had a leak. Because once you saw little air bubbles coming out, that was indicative of a leak. So
right.
when we first started putting them in, that was the case. Now that isn't, and they're usually, like the HydroPure is a combo unit.
Okay.
And we use primarily Hayward equipment. So if we can stick to that, we have the same pumps, communications, actuators, things like that on every job. It makes it easier for us to take care of any service calls later, right?
Dude, you've even helped us pick out the furniture and stuff, like for the stuff we wanted in the pool to make sure we didn't scratch or poke holes in anything. And literally every single thing before we bought just about anything, I think we ran it by you first.
Yeah.
To see if there's anything better or if that's going to be a good use for it, just because there's a whole lot of engineering and just science going on back there, and everything's got to play well together.
And I think, what you guys tap into from asking us is just our exposure.
That's correct.
We've seen so many backyards and even the ones that we've walked up on that, we need to help out. We're going to look at one tomorrow. It's a 2-year-old pool. And another friend of ours owns Atlantic Pools. He referred us down there. It's in Thompson Station, but the whole deck needs to come up.
Wow.
I don't know we'll see. I'll let you know, but yeah. So, those are unfortunate, but, that's a part of, what we are trying to, kind of educate and make sure people are making sound decisions.
Absolutely. I was so impressed with the vendors that we've brought in, that we came in, because if they're secure in what they do, they see good work, they acknowledge it. But if they're not secure, they're always going to find something that they, we could have did this or should have did that or whatever. And even all the way down to, I think it's well over 1,200 square feet of concrete. And even the concrete guys that we brought in to do some additional stuff, they're like, that's good work with the drainage and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was so cool to watch it all come together big time. And you said before, you guys are taking basically 2 projects on at a time year round, right?
Yeah. We like to manage that. We've tried 3 or 4 at a time, and, we started to get the ripple effect of what that is for a small company. Yeah. So until we can get 2 or 3 more craftsmen.
Sure. He's always on, baby. That's how you know. That's how you know.
So yeah, and we're looking for 2 more good craftsmen, 1 or 2. But until that point, 2 is our magic number. That's where we can give the attention every day. If we move off, it's we're waiting on an inspection or waiting on a product. Right. But it also gives us a place to go every day as well.
Gotcha.
So we can keep the consistency.
Over the course of a year, 2 at a time, how many jobs is that over the course of the year? I'm trying to let the folks know how. If again, to get you guys when you're available, it's hard. It was a God thing for us. I truly believe that.
Well, in a connection, like you said, I agree. Because again, I would not have found you guys without Donna, and that was interesting because we had a common friend in West Haven.
That's right.
Yeah. So that was interesting how it all worked out. I'm glad it did.
That's right.
And usually when it does, those are the cases. Even one of our dear friends, he was a client, turned into a good friend. David Billings was so close to signing with a couple of other guys. And now, here we are down the road a couple of years and we talk about it. And he's like, you have no idea. I was right there.
Oh, wow.
And I could have got caught up in all of this. And I'm like, no. And for us, we're trying to invest more in our social media so that we can help get the word out there too. Yeah. This was perfect timing, really, with your project. And another, what are the odds?
That's right.
Anyone that knows me knows I'm not a podcast guy, but this feels great.
I wasn't either for a long time. I bought into it. And then once I figured it out, I was like, I tell people a lot, because the first thing people ask is how do you get a return on your podcast? I'm like, it's almost too much to measure because of the relationships. You've seen the wall and the people I've had on here. There's folks that I have no reason to have an hour-long conversation with them and get to know them without this. This is by far the sharpest tool in my tool belt, and it's opened more doors and more business opportunities than we can like almost to even measure. And they just keep on coming and keep on coming. I thought podcasts were stupid when I first I was like, what? I was like, that's just bad radio. That's what I thought it was. And then I find out that, like I started listening to them and there's great knowledge and it's, I'm just amazed at how, whether I'm an expert at what I do or not, a lot of people just assume that I am unless I prove them otherwise because of a platform like this. It's an amazing platform. It's such a great tool.
Well, and like you say, you get the opportunity to bring a diverse, group
Absolutely.
in and share knowledge, information from all angles of life.
That's right.
So it's got to be very rewarding.
It's a lot of fun too. It's a lot of, who knows, like anytime lights, camera, action, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good time. And we like doing it. So the water went in today. Once again, folks, we're hanging out with Dan Buckley, the owner of Harpeth Valley Hardscapes. HarpethValleyHardscapes.com is their website. Check them out on Instagram at Harpeth Valley Hardscapes, where they are profiling and promoting some of their latest work. You'll be seeing pictures of our project, I'm sure, very soon along the way. We're extremely proud of it so far, and I can't wait till it's all done. And for me, when the landscaping is finished around it, that's when it's really going to kind of happen for me, right? So I'm telling Josh every day, I'm like, dude, let's go. I'm ready. Like
the softscapes,
absolutely,
to finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then even once we get the operational where the kids can get in, the cover will be going in probably next week. That'll add that level of safety. Yeah, and we'll get things fired up this week, so that'll be nice. You saw the salt was already there.
That's right.
And we're looking forward to getting running.
That's right. Well, I told my wife when we were talking about getting trained on anything, we're both going to be out there because I can break anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it is nice to hear it from two people to hear it and have, because there'll be different takeaways.
Right.
And that's what I love about this idea of even us videotaping it with a phone, even just so we have that to share.
Yeah.
And people can go back, as David was that way too. Turn those valves. Now tell me what that is. And then boom. So then when you're vacuuming, when because there may be a time where you transition from pool cleaning people, or maybe they're sick, or like Danny just had a surgery and he was out for a week.
Right.
But then, so it gives you an opportunity and the ability, and more importantly, to just be like, okay, I can take care of it for a week,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And one more question about the technical part of the pool stuff. So, we went with heating and cooling it, right?
Yeah.
And our neighbor has one, like they're in August and late July. If it's a smaller body of water, it gets, it's not even a pool anymore. It's like, it's almost too hot to enjoy it. So we wanted to be able to swim on Christmas Day. We wanted to be able to swim in July and the water be what we want. But as far as heating and cooling goes, what are some of the best ways to do that? And what would you recommend as far as making those decisions?
Well, it probably, again, comes down to usage.
Yeah.
Are we going to be heating a spa with it?
Okay.
You have your standalone spa, so that didn't become an issue.
Do you now on that? Let me just that's the next thing I want to go, standalone versus not standalone spa. Yeah, so that's the next question. But go ahead, I don't interrupt you.
Sure. Well, so again, usually it comes down to if there is a built-in spa or a spa that is being heated from our pool heater.
Okay.
Then we want to go gas probably, because it's timing.
Gotcha.
Most people want to be able to get into it in an hour.
Okay.
When we think about it, it's almost like our gas fireplaces or fire pits. They kind of win because you want that fire now.
That's right.
So gas is the way to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are not trying to do a spa, and our focus is to heat and cool, then the heat pump is the way to go. Yeah. It's it requires 50 amps of service. So we have to make sure that we have enough room in the panel.
Right.
So we usually explore that.
Yeah.
Make sure it's doable.
It looks like, and we have 2 HVAC units before you guys got back there. Now there's a whole slab and all that. It's impressive looking back there. Like it's a lot. It's intimidating.
Full operations. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. And then And then the difference between standalone hot tubs versus building them in, right? We went with standalone.
Yeah. And I think it really, again, comes down to level of comfort and expectations.
Right.
You know, a lot of times these the built-in spillover spas are a water feature in themselves.
Okay.
And we'll do a combo unit that can heat and cool, or heat and filter both.
Right.
You know, so that's nice, and it's energy efficient. You can isolate and just heat the spa, or you can isolate and just heat the pool if you decided.
Right.
But you don't have the ability to cool, you know. And then the standalones have, again, the contour, the number of jets. You know, we're talking 90 or 80 jets compared to 6 or 8 in a built-in.
Right.
You know, so I think what your expectation of a spa is.
Okay.
You know, like talking to Rihanna, you know, she loved all of the contour bench.
Yes.
That's hard to mimic in a gunite.
Right.
You know, but then the spillover we've captured with our built-in with the wall. So
that's right. It's so cool. Right.
There's many ways to accomplish, and I think it's what your what their vision is as each individual.
What's neat, like, and you know, if we don't like the hot tub 10 years from now, we can get a different one.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
And that is kind of, and I guess to have that full conversation, right? Most of those are designed for that. In the 10 to 12 years, they kind of go away. You know, some will even say, well, they're throwaways.
Right.
You know, okay, fair enough. So that's something to consider in, you know, the longevity. Is your forever home, and like yours, we've built it in a way that one slides out, a new one goes right in.
That's right.
So it doesn't change the aesthetics at all. So that's how I would encourage it if I was going to have a standalone. You know, got to build it in like that.
I wasn't a believer in that at first until you explained it that way to me. It's like, because I was like, you mean we can get the water feature, a better wall, a better jumping rock, and then like, and it's encapsulated between, and then, you know, the hot tub itself has lights, which is cool on the side. So it's for us, it's way better than having it included in there, and being able to cool the pool without the hot water spilling over into it all the time is a big deal.
Right.
Yeah. It's so cool. So if there was anything that, like, if you just, that one message that you're like, man, if I had the platform and I had the opportunity, like, what would I say to people to, like, just to make this, like, I'm just amazed at how, like, there's just not a lot of resources to find answers. Like, you gotta have the person that is the resource. Like, so what advice would you have? Anything you want to leave the folks with? Anything like that?
The one thing I would say, after everything I've seen in the last year, and maybe over the course of the last 3 with COVID, not to rush to decision, right? To do due diligence with the interview process. Make sure you interview at least 3, and make sure that you have the second or third interview to secure or to ensure that you've made the right choice.
Right.
Because that's usually going to be when you'll see something doesn't add up. You know, whether it's the second or third or whatever, but do due diligence and, you know, meet some of the clients, have conversations if you don't have time to meet them. But make sure that, you know, the relationship that you're getting into is sound.
Sure.
And the quality is going to long outlast any conversations that we're caught up in the front end with budget.
Right.
So we really have to think, you know, long and hard, because we've seen some guys will come in with low bids and then wear people out with change orders, and you know, and so it's tough, you know, and maybe not coming with the level of expertise and knowledge, you know. So you know, sometimes it's, you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
You know, and you know, some of these numbers sound high when they're bidding jobs, and oh my gosh, I can surely do it for that. Can you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's the question a lot of them have found.
You get what you pay for.
Right. So I think that, you know, again, having a little bit of taking the time to make the right decisions, feeling rushed, never really, you know, hasn't ever benefited me. That's when I make my worst purchases.
I challenge people a lot, especially, being in the world of health insurance for so long. That was one of the most, I was guilty of saying it before I knew what I knew, is that, hey, what do you want? Cheapest thing I can find. I'm like, when has that ever been a good decision for you? When? And especially when you're dealing with something like this, I mean, this is high 5-figure to all range 6 or even 7-figure jobs. Yeah. When do you want to pick a 6-figure job that's the cheapest you can get? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going that far,
right?
Like you got to get the quality of it, man. And quite honestly, the cheapest one you get usually ends up being the most expensive because of all the mistakes and miscommunications and the happenings along the way, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the angst is probably the worst part for us,
right?
Because by the time we can actually get back to help, then there's levels of discomfort with everything. You know what I mean? Because again, if this isn't done right, what else isn't done right?
Right.
So then we start questioning, especially when we see different, plumbing methods and things, So, again, we definitely need more regulation.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the things that we're working on, getting more certified pool builders out there. It's, I saw a big focus on that at this last class where there was 80, 90 from around the country.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. I had a guy from Nantucket on my left and a guy from Jamaica on my right.
That's cool.
And we're still in touch today. We
Wow.
still text and stuff. They're great. Yeah, I mean, in different levels of building or experience.
Yeah.
I guess I was kind of the old man in the room, you know. But it was great. Made some good friends, and I was encouraged by seeing that level of commitment because it isn't inexpensive, right? To continue this path,
right?
But our goal is ultimately to get everyone certified as master pool builders. So
that's right.
We at least we know what we're putting out there,
right,
is going to be solid.
That's right.
And my guys are almost ready now. They're at that point right now where they're ready to spread their knowledge. So you can see how the tree is starting to.
That's right.
Yeah, and
that's right.
So that's why I say we're looking for 1 or 2 good craftsmen. If anybody's listening,
man. Well, that is cool, man. It's again, I think you're a rare breed of both. Being a master at your craft, but also like being a master of being a business owner and managing the clients' communications. That's why I have my wife. That's my partner in everything that we do, because I'm only good at half of it and she's great at the other half. She fills in for the other half, right? So you're a very dynamic group of guys and ladies that are getting it done, and it's just been a great experience, man. Like I'm here to say it out loud. Like it's been an awesome experience, and I don't like clutter. I have a hard time with things not being organized. So for my backyard to be a hole in the ground and going through all these things for the months that we've been doing it, brother, I don't know if I could have, I mean, like, I don't know. Something bad might have happened if there was somebody else back there. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. And even like you said, some of these situations, we see them too. We'll drive around and we'll be like, golly, no one's been there for months.
Yeah.
Did they go bankrupt? Did they stop work order? All these different things, Yeah. And it has happened, unfortunately, this year. There's been a lot of guys that have gone out. So there's carnage, right?
Yeah.
But hopefully we've plateaued there too.
Right.
Kind of like with the pricing and everything. We're hoping we're just kind of getting back to normal a little bit. Let some of these pricings kind of subdue a bit if we can. It'd be nice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, understanding the real estate, what your home, what the top of it can be if everything's done. Like we did all that research and we told you what we were doing and why. And then, I mean, you worked with us on our budget to help us make sure we didn't blow through that and go too much. Like I say, top to bottom, this whole experience has been an A+, man. It's been, I couldn't imagine doing it with anybody else. And when we do, I'm sure we probably will do another one one day, and you guys will 100% be those people to do that.
Well, then you'll be even rarer, which will be great.
That's
right.
What
I mean? That'll be 3.
That's right.
Which is wonderful.
That's right.
But that's the greatest compliment.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely. Anything else that you want to leave the folks with, Dan?
Well, again, I think that this market has unlimited potential. So there's a lot of temptation here,
right,
from all areas.
Yeah.
Builders coming in from Atlanta, Texas, all over. So I just encouraged, do some investigation.
Shop local, maybe.
Shop local. You know what I mean? Maybe work with people that, their kids go to the same schools.
Yeah.
They're part of the same environment. They shop at the same stores.
That's right.
We all pay the same gas prices.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I mean, that's part of the community.
That's right.
And then that's where, we've always intended to be a business that, again, was either passed down or, either in-house or to my son. And we always wanted it to have a homegrown feel. It is family first. Always has been. Our whole team knows it. Nobody has to do anything other than just a text or a phone call.
That's right.
And we'll see you tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so, again, just making sound decisions. And we'd love to build your backyard.
That's right.
What I mean? That's our enjoyment. Our team really enjoys getting people outside.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, folks, once again, we were hanging with Dan Buckley, the owner of Harpeth Valley Hardscapes, the best of truly custom builds, right? HarpethValleyHardscapes.com is the website. Check him out on Instagram. Click that follow button at Harpeth Valley Hardscapes on the web, ma'am. So Dan, thanks so much for hanging, brother. Appreciate you,
Nick.
man.
I appreciate you. And this project, it's a team effort.
That's right.
That's why we hit success.
That's right.
So
that's right. Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.